And welcome everybody to another episode of Fins Nation. I am your host, Louis Sung, and today we are joined by a very special guest, the head of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, Ethan Skolnick himself. Hello, Ethan. How are you doing today?
Good to be with you. Like I said, I'm on the other side of the glass today. You host. I'm just hanging out. I'm just chilling.
Hey,
It's fine.
but you know what? I'm really glad to have you here chilling, talking Miami Dolphins with me. So there's a lot of stuff. Like I understand that the network is always going to be Heat centric, but you know what? These Miami Dolphins, they've got everybody lit up right now. We've got Tua Tagovailoa, we've got Tyreek Hill, we've got Jalen Ramsey waiting in the wings. He's waiting in the wings, but he is still there. He's still there. So there is plenty of star power, plenty of things to talk about, and this team could potentially go places. And we have the opportunity to see what they might do since they're going to be doing a rematch with the Los Angeles Chargers after last season's absolute debacle. We'll talk a little bit about everything that went down then, what our feelings were, what we're feeling right now, all the new stories that have been coming out. But before we get into all of that, just want to go ahead and mention that, as always, this show is brought to you by our good friends over at Ubreak Wheel Fix. Ubreak Wheel Fix is the complete automotive wheel solution. Ever parked too close to the sidewalk curb? Ubreak Wheel Fix specializes in the repair of damaged wheels from bends, cracks, and curb rash. Or maybe your wheels are faded or peeling. You don't need to replace them, as Ubreak Wheel Fix can refinish them to like new. Offering complete refinish options through powder coating, machining, and polishing, Ubreak Wheel Fix is the answer to all of your wheel needs. And if you're just looking to give your ride a new look, Ubreak Wheel Fix also offers many car customizing options, such as new custom wheels and tires from your favorite brands, performance upgrades, window tinting, and suspension modifications. Located just south of Aventura, you can reach Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 or online at ubreakwheelfix.com. They're really active on all social media platforms at Ubreak Wheel Fix, so shoot them a DM on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter /X/ whatever you want to call it, and get an estimate in just minutes. So don't delay, go to Ubreak Wheel Fix and start customizing your ride to show off your Dolphins fandom today. This show is also brought to you by PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is the revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues. Whether that's the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, one of each, it's up to you to decide. Just choose whether your chosen player will get more or less in their projected stat. They give you free squares over there, such as the free Dak Prescott square, which is currently live as of today as well. Special Taco Tuesday promos, which y'all missed out on yesterday if you haven't been paying attention. And also the Flex Friday specials, where you can get your money back if you lose or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. I took advantage of that offer not too long ago and won $500 on a 6-player flex. So it's obviously possible if somebody like me can do it. It's hard to justify not signing up at this point if you are any kind of a fantasy sports fan. So use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. In the promo code 5, FIVE, go to prizepicks.com, deposit your $100, and let PrizePicks give you $100 of their dollars for you to play with and get started winning today. All right, Ethan. So obviously, the Miami Dolphins have a lot of stuff going on right now. A lot of players who we're kind of keeping a very close eye on, trying to see if they're going to play or not. Teron Armstead right now is considered questionable. Obviously, we're going to get a lot of other players who are considered questionable at this moment. The depth chart on ESPN's depth chart anyway, because the depth chart just kind of doesn't really mean a whole lot. I know that Liam Eichenberg is still considered the starting left guard. And I know that Mike McDaniel's being coy about the whole thing. It's like, well, you never know who may be the starter. And like, I'm very, very convinced that Liam Eichenberg is not going to be the starter. But he is considered questionable. Jalen Waddle is quote-unquote questionable. Savon Ahmed and Devon Achane, who both returned to practice, they are also considered questionable. So I know how this game works when it comes to players who are either going to play or are not going to play. But as far as what I'm looking at right here, I don't know if I would say that I'm expecting a repeat of what happened last season against the Chargers. Just a little minor refresher for everybody. What happened last season against the Miami Dolphins and the Los Angeles Chargers? Dolphins lost 17-23, and Tua probably had his worst game as a pro in that game. 10 for 28, 145 yards, and a touchdown. Meanwhile, Justin Herbert, he threw for 367 yards, but he did it in 39 attempts. So that's not exactly wow-worthy numbers. But I digress. So I want to go ahead and just get your thoughts, Ethan. Very general speaking right now, what are you expecting from the Dolphins as they get ready for their season opener?
Well, I mean, I think you could say that the preseason was uneven. I think that's a fair characterization of it. There were, you look at the shared practices they did. There was some good there. There was some bad there. The same in the preseason games. Obviously, you didn't get to see Ramsey like we expected to see Ramsey. You didn't get to see Waddle. like we expected to see Waddle, and then Armstead's injury too. So I mean, you had a bunch of things that were playing into it. I mean, to me, the injury that matters here for Week 1 is Armstead. Is he going to be healthy? And it just feels like this is going to be the story of his tenure in Miami. That it's week to week. He's not going to practice. Can he play in the game? We saw that last year too, and they need him to play because we know how thin they are on the offensive line. My concerns about this team coming into this season were, can they protect the quarterback? And if something happens to the quarterback, can they survive the loss of the quarterback for 3 or 4 weeks? That, to me, is where it comes down to. And I'm not sure those questions got answered in the preseason. I'm not sure that I feel particularly comfortable with the offensive line, and I definitely do not feel comfortable with the reserve quarterback situation. I know Mike White has been announced as the number 2. I think we expected that. I don't know that he's going to end up being a huge upgrade over Bridgewater, who was not great. And to me, Skylar Thompson backslid a little bit in this preseason. So I have concerns. Again, about it. To me, it's about the quarterback for this team. I think that they're going to be much better defensively simply because of the coordinator change and what Fangio is going to provide there. And I think that they're going to have a defense that's going to keep people sort of off balance the entire season. And I think they have the potential to be a top 5 defense. I don't know if they'll get there, but I think they could get there. Obviously there's some concerns about, depth in the secondary now because of so many guys getting hurt. That I think they went into the season with that as their deepest position. And now, you're talking about, multiple guys being out or coming back from injury and just don't know how the pieces are going to fit. I think when you look at the AFC, you look at a game like this, and it's just the first game of the year, but it's the type of game that will matter because there really are 11 playoff-worthy teams in the AFC, I think. I don't know if there are 6 in the NFC. And so you're going to have teams in the AFC that are pretty good that are going to get squeezed out. I don't know that you're going to get in the playoffs, with fewer than 10 wins, I think. And you may need 11 in certain situations unless you happen to be on top of one of the weaker divisions. So a game like this against a Charger team that looks like they could be in the mix for one of those AFC playoff spots is critical. And, I feel like they've held a lot back this preseason. There were distractions, whether it was Dalvin Cook or Jonathan Taylor, and there were other distractions with all the injuries. So they came out of it, I don't think in the best shape. I would say it's probably a B- training camp. We'll see what happens in game 1.
And speaking of something that you had brought up, because if we're going to be talking about things like Tua Tagovailoa, and obviously the quarterback is a big deal, I will go ahead and just say this briefly on the backup quarterback position. I think that Mike White is going to be be better than Teddy Bridgewater, just simply on the sole fact that it looks like Mike White actually cares.
Yeah, I was going to say the same
it's like he
thing.
actually looks like he wants to play football. So at least in that regard, he's going to be better than Bridgewater, who just kind of wanted to collect his paycheck and go home. And
Bridgewater just wants to keep changing numbers now.
he just has to keep changing his number. It's like, wait, I have to go in the game? What? That's not what you guys told me.
He's trying to hide in a non-quarterback number. I thought that's what the 50 was about.
Yeah,
no one would put him in the game.
Nobody will see me in a 50. Like nobody's going to expect that. But yeah. So I think Mike White, he'll be better at being a backup just because he actually wants to be good. Mm-hmm. But as far as Tua is concerned, I understand that there are still concerns about his health. I understand that there are always going to be concerns about his health at this point, at least until he gets through a season with moderately. I'm not even going to say he has to get through a full 17-game season. I'm not even going to go that far. If he can just miss like a maximum of 2 games with maybe he twisted his knee or something and he needs to just kind of sit out for a week. Even that much I'd be willing to accept if it means that he's going to be rock solid the rest of the year. But I will go ahead and say this. Did you recently watch the debut of Shannon Sharp on Stephen A. Smith's First Take instead of Skip Bayless's Undisputed?
Yes.
So there was a segment just the other day where they the host, I think it's Molly Curum, I think is her name. She asked Skip and Shannon. I said CS is Skip. I'm so used to saying Skip and Shannon. He asked Stephen A. and Shannon who is going to have the better game, if it was going to be Tua or if it was going to be Justin Herbert. They're already talking about this like it's a really big deal.
Right.
So Shannon had gone out of his way to bring up that he actually thought that Tua was going to have a better game because of everything that he accomplished last season and the fact that he was having an MVP caliber thing before he ended up getting the injuries and stuff. And he had even brought up the fact that, yes, he acknowledged and he justified the decision for Tua to take the jiu-jitsu training and talk about learning how to fall properly so you don't end up banging your head against the turf every single time you go down. And it's I guess it kind of, I don't know, because there was another football player there. I can't remember the guy's name right now, but he kind of poo-pooed the whole thing and basically acted like it's no big deal. And Stephen A. made fun of the whole thing, acting like if you have and I kind of understand where he's coming from to some extent, but I feel like it would have been irresponsible for Tua to not take the step that he took. Because Stephen A. was talking about if there's a dude who blindsides you because Austin Jackson missed probably, and he's a 330-pound something, and he knocks you on your head, you're probably unconscious before you even hit the ground if that happens. So at that point, there's only so much that you can really do to protect yourself. But I personally feel like that for people to continue to dismiss the jiu-jitsu as it's a gimmick, it doesn't mean anything. I feel like it's almost like they're determined to make it seem like Tua is not going to accomplish much. And it was actually Chris Kaufman of 3 Yards Per Carry who talked about this. Kenny Pickett of the Pittsburgh Steelers also had 2 concussions last season, and nobody cares. Everybody's acting like Kenny Pickett's going to be this explosion quarterback this upcoming season. Meanwhile, Tua is just like, we have our thoughts and prayers out for him. So the dichotomy is unreal.
I will never understand the media's fascination with Tua, for better or worse. I don't really get it on a national basis. I think that he's become a lightning rod for I have reasons I can't explain. I mean, LeBron James was a lightning rod because he had chosen one tattooed on him when he was 17 years old. I mean, Tua is like a religious guy who stays out of the way. I don't really understand. He doesn't want his personal life out there. He's made that clear. He's not controversial in the things that he says. I mean, he's responded recently because it's enough, but I don't understand how this started. And it almost seems, like there are just people who they need to be right. And that's, I think, where we're at. And I don't even know what they want to be right about. I mean, what do they want to be right about? That he's not a top 10 guy, that he's not going to survive a season? Look, it's reasonable to have concerns about his health. I mean, it's reasonable. Availability is the issue with him. It's going to continue to be the issue, and not because of previous injuries or the hip or anything, but because of the head injuries, and that is a reasonable concern. But he gets, as we just talked about the Pickett thing, he gets judged by completely different standards than everybody else. And, when he's doing something to try to avoid the problem that everybody's criticizing him for, why is there additional criticism? That's what I don't get. These shows really don't have anything to talk about. They don't watch him play. It's pretty clear. And we just saw that again with these ringer rankings, which I know Simon pointed out on Twitter, Simon Clancy from 3 Yards Per Carry. He had him ranked 15th. You can rank him wherever you want, but they basically said he has to rely on accuracy and touch because he can't get the ball in there. I mean, if you look at the numbers, like any metric shows you, he throws the ball behind the line of scrimmage fewer times than any other quarterback. He throws the ball down the field more than most quarterbacks. His deep ball was better than most quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks. It just doesn't. It's like the numbers in this case. It does not matter how many numbers you throw at these people. They have a preconceived notion that he's a dink and dunk player when really that is the furthest thing from the case. Honestly, it might be better if he was. He would avoid some of these hits and these concussions, particularly behind this offensive line. So I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't know if he's just not the archetype and he's just not what people are used to seeing at the position, whether it is because he's left-handed or because he's non-white or because he's short or what it is. I don't understand what it is because there are other non-white quarterbacks that get more respect than he does.
Russell Wilson still gets more respect than Tua does at this point.
Correct. Well, and Russell fits into this too, but there are short quarterbacks who get more respect than he does. Ryan Clark going after his physique. I mean, the slightest bit of research would have told you he was wrong on that.
Which, to be fair, he did apologize for.
He did after full 36 hours of bludgeoning on social media and everywhere else.
But he did apologize. A lot of people don't. They just say, "No, I'm right."
Right. I mean, Chris Sims does, and others don't. Correct. But I guess I just don't get it. I don't get it. Like I understand. In the local market, there's always going to be criticisms of the quarterback, concerns about the quarterback. But nationally, I really don't understand. I don't know how you look at I mean, like the fascination with Herbert, as we're talking about this, why does the national media not pay more attention to the fact that he typically flops in the fourth? Like, isn't that a big thing? Like, that is when you have to be great. Like, and if you look at the metrics, like third down, fourth quarter, come from behind, Tua does very well in all of those metrics. And those important metrics, Herbert does not. Okay, so I guess I don't get it. Like in the past, we talk about guys who are winners who make plays when it matters. Those are the guys that were revered. You go back to like if you took Joe Montana versus say Dan Fouts, people would take Joe Montana, even though Fouts put up bigger numbers. And it's a weird thing that's happened here where everything Tua does that's good is basically pushed to the side, and you're looking for the one pass to mock him. And I guess now, the national media now has Rodgers in New York, so they've got another, toy to talk about up there. But I just don't understand it. I don't know how you could watch Mac Jones play last year and Tua play last year and decide that Tua is the one that you're going to keep going after. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Mac Jones sucked last year, it's weird. I'll just say it's weird.
Yeah, he sucks. Mac Jones sucked so much that he actually got benched for Bailey Zappi for a few games.
Correct.
Some people seem to forget that, but they're like, Mac Jones is going to have a breakout season this year, boy. I'll tell you, based on what exactly?
Right. Well, and the media is very bad at predicting breakout seasons because the reality is nobody predicted Daniel Jones' breakout season last year. Everybody
was it even a breakout season though, Ethan? I mean,
no, but it was better. It was better than look. I think he's going to slide back this year, and I don't think he's great. I don't think he's a top 15 guy. But
I know Giants fans. I have talked to Giants fans. I'm now in a fantasy football league with a Giants fan, and even she is like, "Yeah, I'm not picking Daniel Jones for my fantasy team. Are you nuts?"
I think that there again is an overrated because of the market, but I'm just saying like, okay, at least he was better than expected, and I don't think that most media expected that. I mean, now there's a lot of hype around Fields. I mean, we'll see. I mean, the Bears haven't put together anything in years, but there's this hope that Watson's going to get it together. I mean, I just like I said, I don't understand it. I understand criticizing. I'll be critical of him when he sort of makes those one or two throws a game that you're like, what are you doing? And I understand that. Okay, I understand the criticism of that. I understand the concern about availability. I get it, but I don't understand the criticism of things that seem to relate to his character, like whether he works hard enough or whether this thing about the jiu-jitsu was stupid. Like if he wasn't taking the preparations for this stuff, people would say he's not doing anything. So I just don't get it. Look, I don't know him. I'm going tomorrow, to availability, and I don't know. I mean, I've been at press conferences, so it's not like I'm defending him out of friendship and love. It's just it's just a weird dynamic with him that nobody can explain to me.
Yeah, this isn't like a Tim Tebow scenario where everybody wants to defend him because he's a devout Christian. It's not like it's one of those things. It seems to be
the opposite in this case. Yeah. I don't know. It seems to be the opposite.
Yeah, it does seem to be opposite in some case. So real quick, because I want to go ahead and get your thoughts on this. There was a story, and I told you about it off camera, but I'm going to go ahead and bring it back up again. There was a story that was put out there by, pulling it up, it's from Joy Epstein. I hope I'm saying it right. Talking about Dolphins quarterback coach Darrell Bevell, who suffered a detached retina during training camp, and after surgery, he needed to lie face down for 90% worth of 7 straight days. So Mike McDaniel showed a picture, and for those of you who are listening, you can go check it out. The article is available still to watch. Mike McDaniel showed the team a picture of Darrell Bevell. He's laying face down on his bed, and he literally has a laptop pulling up game film. So I just feel like, because you've been around them, Ethan, you've talked to some of these coaches, you've talked to this coaching staff. What exactly is different about this coaching staff now than it was in years past, or even as far as last year? Has there been growth? Has there been like an evolution of sorts in how everybody is feeling and how everybody's thinking?
Well, it's McDaniel's second staff. That always is important. The first year is, typically the head coach inherits certain guys that he's kind of pushed to inherit, either because of a contract situation or the owner likes him, or there's just not the guy out on the market to get at that point. The second year becomes more his staff. And I think where that's going to be seen is the Fangio hire, because I think where that's really going to help McDaniel is we saw Mike had issues getting plays into the game and other things like that last year. And, sometimes I know he's more focused on the offense, not to the degree that, say, Adam Gase was, okay? But now it's like you literally can turn over half the team to somebody that you're confident can run it. And I don't think that they had that last year. So I think that will help. The fact that Fangio was a head coach, even if he wasn't a particularly successful one, he has been a chief executive of a large unit, okay, on the football field. And so I think that that's really going to help McDaniel this year. And look, this is typically what happens. The coach doesn't get his guys the first year. He gets more of the guys he wants the second year. And then if there's not success, then it starts to fall on him. And that's why the third year becomes so pivotal. And look, they're in a tough situation here. Like, they're in a very good division. And they're in the better conference. And there aren't a whole lot of gimmies on the schedule. And so, they could be better and the record could be worse. Like, that happens sometimes. I think that, to me, they look like a 10 to 11 win team. I might hedge towards 10 because I don't trust the offensive line, and I don't trust the depth in some places. There are some places they just cannot afford significant injury. But I also think there are guys, I point to Jalen Phillips in particular, obviously Javon Holland, who I think are going to take another step this year. And I think if that happens, that could mitigate some of the other stuff. Also, I think Bradley Chubb's going to be a lot better, being in Fangio's system and being here now for the entire season. So I think that will help. The Wilkins situation's a bit of a distraction, but at least they got Sealer done. I think they're going to be good. I mean, I worry about the kicker. You and I always worry about the kicker. I worry about the special teams in general. Because, again, when you're talking about the difference between 9, 10, 11 wins and making the playoffs, the special teams, that becomes something that you say, okay, you dropped this one game as a result of that. So, I think Mike has a better handle on things now. But he kept the special teams coach, right? So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how that one plays out this year.
And all due respect to Danny Crossman, I still miss Darren Rizzi. I just do.
Right.
Right. It's like he was...
I mean, I think the thing with special teams is you miss a good coach when he's gone. And I think that, there's just certain guys, it's like having Westhoff here for years and years and years and years, and then you're cycling through other guys after that. You don't really want to hear much about the special teams coach, to be honest. You just want the units to perform reasonably well. You make your big kicks, you have the important punts when you need them, and you don't give up the big kick returns. And that's where you want to be. And honestly, the Dolphins really weren't there last year.
Yeah. So real quick before I let you go, I kind of want to get your thoughts on this real quick. Brandon Staley, who is the head coach, obviously, of the Los Angeles Chargers, and absolutely outcoached Mike McDaniel last season. There's no getting around it. But he is actually a Vic Fangio protege. So before we go, I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. How do you think this game is actually going to go? Do you think that knowing what Brandon Staley's tendencies are, since Vic Fangio is the D coordinator, obviously Ronaldo Hill is in there also, who used to be the D coordinator for the Chargers as far as last season when they absolutely wrecked the Dolphins. Do you expect things to go differently, or do you expect this to still be really close for the Dolphins and they're might not get out of the win?
Well, I think it's going to be a close game. I do. I think the familiarity of the coaching staffs, I don't know if it matters as much in the first game of the year as it might when you're in the middle of a compressed schedule and you've got basically 4 or 5 days to prepare. They've had the whole offseason. So I think regardless of who the coaches are, the teams would be pretty well prepared for each other. And again, I don't think that the Dolphins showed everything this preseason, and I'm sure that the Chargers didn't either. I think it's a competitive game. I do. The Chargers have a habit, we know historically and even under Staley, of kind of shooting themselves in the foot, not living up to their level of talent. It's easy to say turnovers will decide. I hate saying that because a lot of turnovers are fluky. But I really think, to be honest, that the difference here, comes down to Miami's speed on the outside and how well they can utilize it. And I also think that, I think the Mostert factor has been overlooked here a little bit. He's hungry. He's heard about people coming in to take his job the entire preseason.
Just about
Seems like they got a
everybody.
better
Just about everybody
everybody.
has been coming to take his job.
Absolutely. And it feels like they got a better handle on the run game now, that Mike might stay with it a little bit longer. I think the Dolphins can win this game. I haven't really come up with a pick on it yet. I got to look at it a little bit more before Sunday, but I think it's going to be a tight game. And I think it is going to come down to fourth quarter play. And that is the one place that I will go with a quarterback in Miami as opposed to the quarterback with the Chargers. So we'll see. I think if they can keep the game close, they can win it. If it's going to be a blowout, it's going to be a Charger blowout.
All right, fair enough. All right, Ethan, I want to thank you for coming on to Fins Nation with me. The first time you popped on, we'll try to get you on for more times if we can get our schedules to match up a little bit. So,
absolutely. I want to mention before we go too, for Dolphin fans, I don't know if I've told you this yet, but we just finalized it today. We're having a watch party for this game at Biscayne Bay Brewing, the new brew house down the street from Casaya Center in Miami. It's beautiful facility. They've got foosball. They got plenty of TVs. They got video games. They got the whole thing. So if the game is bad, there are other things to do. And if you come down and you mention 5 reasons, you get a free beer. So that's the deal. So we're going to be at Biscayne Bay Brewing starting at about 3:30 on Sunday.
And I will definitely be there along with the rest of y'all. So we'll be doing pregame, postgame, all the game stuff.
We'll do it all from there.
We'll do it all. All right. So for
thanks, Lewis.
Yep, thank you. And for those of you who have not already done so, make sure you go to check out Ubreak Wheel Fix, because they are the ones who can help you get your wheels fixed up, or if you just need to give your ride a new look, 305-748-0112 is the number to call, or you can go online to ubreakwheelfix.com. And of course, go to PrizePicks.com, use that promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your deposit when you sign up. That free Dak Prescott square is still there for you to take advantage of. Don't let it get by you. Go use it. Go win something today. That's it. We'll see you all tomorrow for another episode of Fins Nation.